Well, you know how Brexit is happening properly end of December, and we're taking back control. We're gonna become an independent and sovereign country to make our own laws. Not everyone's happy. So, as you know, the Boris Johnson's government introduced their new Brexit immigration bill to obviously have full control of our borders and make our own decisions. That passed in the House of Commons because he has a majority of 80. It's gone through the House of Lords. Guess what they did? They rejected it. They sent it back, which is classic Remainy House of Lords sort of thing that you've been seeing since 2016. Obviously, they don't have the full power to completely reject the bill, but what they have done is they can block and delay, and they've also added an amendment, which is not really looking good so far for Boris Johnson, although in the House of Commons it should be fine again. So they went on to back an amendment to legislation that would stop the government plans to impose financial restrictions on Britons returning to the UK with their EU families from March 2022. So that's the one thing that they've done. Now, the whole situation in the Lords is that they've also defied the government to support automatically granting EU children in care settled status in the UK. The amendment proposed by refugee campaigner and a Labour peer, Lord Dobbs, would give children in care and care leavers automatic and indefinite leave to remain under the EU settlement scheme. Now, the peers later backed another change to this current bill, which is again put forward by the same Lord, to continue the existing arrangements for all the obviously child refugees that are not obviously being taken care of by their parents who are refugees. This is obviously quite difficult for Boris Johnson because if they keep using this ping pong strategy, it's just going to delay the inevitable. The whole point of this is that, as I said, Boris still has a majority in the Commons, but this is about the principle of our Parliament, the mother of all parliaments. That's been difficult because of the House of Lords, a group of unelected people who are making these decisions 4 years later, 4 years after the actual Brexit vote, and almost a year after Brexit has officially actually happened. These guys haven't accepted it. They're trying their best to create obstacles, but we have to wait and see how Boris Johnson's government will respond to this amendment when it comes back to the House of Commons, because otherwise we're not going to be a fully kind of functioning democracy if the House of Lords are going to be childish about all these things. Now, on this channel we'll keep you guys posted, but it's Tuesday, so we have received a number of questions from obviously you guys. Let's take a few of them. The first one comes from Daniel in Coventry. Let's go to Daniel.
Hi Mark, Daniel here. Just want to say I really enjoying your YouTube videos. Definitely got me through the lockdown period. Just want to ask really, if Boris fails to get Brexit through at the end of the year, within terms of getting a good deal or going out on WTO, can you see 2021 being a worse year than this year?
Right, so in terms of Brexit and what could happen, Daniel, you're right. If we don't get what was promised, which is a clean Brexit, whether it's with a good trade deal, no political alignments, or a WTO Brexit, no deal Brexit, if it doesn't happen with everything else that's been going on with the government and the country in general since the lockdown and the economic crisis, you're right, 2021 could be at least as bad as 2020. This is why I think the governments are feeling the pressure to make sure that at least they give some sort of good news to the country with Brexit. But I fully agree with what you said. Next question is Thomas from Norwich.
Hey, Mr. Tousi, this is Thomas. I'm asking you a question today about Donald Trump, and I want to ask you to say, do you think he'll win the US election? I hope he does, because Biden and Harris are complete jokes. So, do you think he'll win the polls and that? What's your speculation? Do you think Trump will win this year's US election? Thanks. You have a good day.
Yeah, well, as you know, obviously the American elections is going to have a direct effect, on the whole world, but in terms of the relationship between Britain and America. Joe Biden, in terms of the relationship trade-wise and politically with the UK, he has decided to take the European Union side on a number of issues, including Brexit. He's not too keen on Brexit, and he's also indicated that if there's no trade deal, he will prefer to prioritise the EU and their demands rather than the UK as an independent nation. So Biden winning is obviously bad for America, we get it, but even from our perspective, it's kind of bad. So, a lot of you guys know that President Trump has his strength, but also weaknesses, a lot of flaws, but also good policies. But as a Brit, at this point, we're going to have to back Trump because that's in our interest. Next question is from Alan, who lives just outside of Edinburgh.
We're in the middle of a pandemic in the UK and it's going pear-shaped. I live in Scotland and it's a disaster up here. It's a disaster in England by all accounts. How do we get out of this lockdown mess that we're in with this pandemic that isn't really a pandemic?
Well, Alan, you're not the only one who's frustrated with the current situation and the lockdown policies. It's difficult, and we've said it so many times that a number of people in Parliament and in government themselves are not too keen about what's happening, and they've been obviously forced and pressured by people at the top and the media, obviously, to do all this. This is now having a direct effect, not just on the economy in that sense, but everyday people and their livelihood. So the only way that I can think of that we can actually see some change, and it is slowly going to be happening, is by having actual independent scientific experts and other experts, economic experts, to actually come out and challenge the government and essentially infiltrate the media, get more platforms to be able to challenge these policies. And we have been seeing recently over the last week or so that even the mainstream media are finally inviting people who have a different opinion to the government advisors and the way they are doing their policies with lockdown. So hopefully the more we pressure the whole establishment to have obviously an alternative plan rather than just go with their plan A, that could be a good start. Otherwise, we're not really in charge at this point. So unfortunately, Denise from the United States of America.
Hello, Meyer. So my question is, how are UK-US trade talks going, if there are any, and what is sort of the UK public opinion of there being a free trade agreement with the US?
Well, as you know, the trade talks are still ongoing. President Trump is obviously very keen on making sure that this actually happens. The problem we have is the mainstream media in the UK have been spreading a lot of fake news when it comes to this potential trade deal, whether it's with the American chicken coming to the UK, all the different standards that they have, that you guys have obviously there. It's tricky because you have to firstly convince the media and a lot of the people out there, but at the same time, because it's people like Liz Truss who are in charge of the trade negotiations, but also the Prime Minister. Liz Truss is a free trader, and America obviously will have a lot of demands because whether you like it or not, as a country, America is still a protectionist country, but at least the Trump government with the UK, they're trying their best to push for trade. It is still ongoing. Obviously, we'll keep you guys posted on this channel in the next few months to see how that actually turns out, but it is in the interest of both sides. We have Jack from Devon.
Hi Maya, really enjoy your videos. You always give a really good behind the scenes insight into what's going on in politics. Because of that, I wondered if you knew anything more about the free trade agreements we're doing with Australia and New Zealand, as I haven't heard much about them. Any info would be great. Cheers, Mike. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, so the other trade deals, especially when it comes to Australia and New Zealand, we do have some good news. You're right, the mainstream media aren't really giving us update on that because they don't really care. They don't think it's important. Of course it's important. With New Zealand, obviously we have an agreement and it's going to be finalized very soon. The moment we become independent at the end of December this year, if they let us, it will be a lot easier to actually finally officially announce these trade agreements. Australia is coming along. We're still negotiating obviously with obviously Canada and other countries. South Korea already agreed. There's a number of other things. Actually, what I'm planning to do in the next couple of weeks is to get representatives from CANZUK, obviously the group that's promoting our special relationship with Canada, New Zealand and Australia, to give us a full update on how things are going. So Stay tuned, Jack. Next we have Benzies from Auckland in New Zealand.
Hey, Maya. I didn't realise this was the format. I wrote a text before, but yeah, real fish out of water with this. I'm just wondering, mate, if you could please give some coverage, maybe just a shout out. Ideally, though, an interview with either the leaders of the New Conservatives, where I'm shouting you out here from New Zealand, and I'm just wondering if you could give the New Conservatives a shout. We've got a real communist leader in power at the minute, not just the threat of globalism like every other country in the West right now, but she used to work for Tony Blair. They're called the New Conservatives, and they are talking about conserving. There's so many parallels. Yeah, all the best, mate.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Obviously, a massive shout out to the Conservatives in New Zealand. And as I said in the previous question, I will definitely have representatives, especially from New Zealand, to give us an update on how things are going over there. Because a lot of people, you're right, in Britain don't really know exactly what's going on in different parts, because the mainstream media aren't really reporting. And the only thing we see from about the Prime Minister that you guys have in New Zealand is the mainstream media like her. In reality, you're right. I mean, I wouldn't really call her a communist, but she's definitely quite leftist. And culturally, yes, she and her government are promoting cultural Marxism. We know that. Economically, absolute chaotic. It's a shame that she still has some support in New Zealand, but that's just how your politics works, I guess, in that country. So that's the kind of all the questions that we have from you guys tonight. Don't forget, every Tuesday we do this segment. So throughout the whole week, feel free to send in your video questions, just like all the other guys that just did. Video selfie, 20 seconds max. You could find all the details in the description. You can send it to our WhatsApp number or email address. You can just find them again below. Don't forget to click like, share the video, subscribe, and also support the channel by becoming a member. Become a member, you get a lot of perks and benefits, including our weekly video podcast, 10% discount for our merchandise, and a number of other things, including members Q&A. I'm ITC. I'll see you guys in the next video.